go back in time and explore what Oregon looked like in the 1850s and 60s through the Bureau of Land Management's General Land Office records. These records include documentation of so-called homestead claims made by many Euro-American settlers coming over the Oregon Trail, but also detailed survey maps that show what the landscape looked like before Oregon even became a state. We'll also show you a quick way to translate what you are seeing on these old maps to modern landmarks using the free online ORMAP system. Before we get started, there are a few things you need to know about the Public Lands Survey System. The survey system dates back to George Washington's time and basically created a gigantic imaginary grid over the western United States to help us pinpoint locations even if the landscape changes over time. The system is pretty simple. The grid is made up of north-south lines called meridian lines and east-west lines that are picked that are called baselines. Surveyors then draw out 6 by 6 mile squares called townships from the intersection of these two lines. The naming is standard for these townships based on how many units they are away from the intersection. For example, the yellow shaded township is the second township south of the baseline and the third township east of the meridian. We would say this township is 2 south, range 3 east, and might abbreviate it like this. What would you call the pink shaded township? That's right, we'd call it 1 north, range 2 west. Each township can then be broken down into 36 1-mile square units called sections. These are always numbered 1 through 36, starting in the northeast corner, and then continuing back and forth to the southeast corner. There's even a fancy word for the pattern used, Boustrophedonically, an old word from ancient Greek that means as the ox turns. You can imagine an ox plowing a field, starting in the northeast corner and going back and forth until it gets to the bottom. With the township, range, and section, we can narrow places down to within a square mile area. You can further narrow down the location by talking about the northeast quarter of a section or the west half of a section. We aren't going to go too deep into that today, though. Most property in western Oregon and Washington are based off the Willamette Meridian and Baseline that were established in 1851 and intersect just outside of Portland. Okay, school's out. Let's try to apply this. Say we're interested in learning more about Fabritus Smith. We know he came over on the Oregon Trail and that he settled somewhere in South Salem. But where exactly was the land he owned? The BLM GLOW records can help us find more information about it. From the main page here, we can hit Search Documents. Gives us a lot of opportunities for where to search for. So since I know the name of the person I'm interested in, I'm just going to type in Smith, Fabritus. And I know he lived in Oregon. I actually know he's in Marion, so we can leave that blank or we can click on it too to get more pointed search results. So here we go, we hit Search Patents. And up pops 2 options for Fabritus and his wife, Julia. So we're going to hit the accession number right here. And that's going to pull up the details about the land claim. So it gives the name of the people that claimed the land, gives us the date of issue, 1859. What we're really interested here is in the land descriptions. And if you remember back to our quick lesson, these should look very familiar to you. 7 south, range 3 west, and section 34. Similarly, it looks like the claim crossed a township line between 34 at the bottom of 7 south, range 3 west, and 3 at the top of 8 south, 3 west. So I'm going to write that down real quick because I'm going to want to remember that information when I go searching in the next bit. So the other really neat thing here is I can go over to Related Documents tab right here, click on that, and it will pull up a list of people that are neighbors to my family, the Smiths. But if I click on Surveys right here, it allows me access to original surveys of that area, which is pretty nifty to see what it would have looked like in different years. So if we're interested in seeing what the land looked like in 1852, I can open up the plat image here. And if your operating system is anything like mine, it really doesn't like the plugin player this organization uses, so I have to scroll down and hit Basic Viewer to get the image to show up. And what it shows me is, in that 1852 date, what my township looked like at the time. Now, I'm remembering back to how these sections are organized and remembering that my family was living in 7 South, 3 West, section 34. I know that 1 starts here and it goes down to 36 down at the bottom here. So I'm going to sneak over here and I'm going to click there to zoom in on the property. Quick note for people, this is a little difficult to navigate. If you click and try to move the screen, what's going to happen is it's going to zoom. Instead, you're going to want to use these blue arrows to do your movement on the space. It takes a little bit of getting used to. And you can also manipulate the zoom feature with the plus and minus here. Make it smaller or bigger. Oops. Smaller or bigger, and then move up and down. Well, I found section 34 here, and what I can see when I'm looking at section 34 here is I can see Fabritus's name right here, and I can also see an outline of his land claim going around this direction in the bottom half of section 34. And again, we're looking at section 34 as a block. You got to use your imagination to see that grid right there, halfway between 33 and 35. These early maps offer a lot of interesting details about the physical landscape. You'll see some cross-hatching lines, which helps give you some ideas of topography, how tall or low the land was with hills and other things. You can also see this says low bottoms, giving you an idea that that's probably a marshy area over there. You can see the river, and you can also see dwelling places put into space in the area. And these cross-hatching lines oftentimes mean they're plowed fields, which is kind of nifty to see too, what people were at. It's interesting to note that it looks like there's a type of roadway or pathway here that running along this area here, and it looks like Mr. Smith and his neighbor Mr. Davidson have built up their houses and their barns kind of in a cluster here around the road. Okay, let's go back and see how things may have changed in the future. So I'm going to go back real quick. Look. Again, to get at those maps, you're going to want to hit Related Documents, Surveys, and now I've got my list again, and I'm interested in looking maybe what the survey looked like in 1861 now. So let me pull up that plat image. Again, my system's a little slow, so I'm going to go to the Basic Viewer. And I'm going to zoom in back down there, and this gives me a pretty good viewpoint of how the property laid out totally, with this north half of the property in section 34 and the south half of the property in section 3 of Township 8 South, Range 3 West. So how do I translate what I'm seeing on this 1861 map to where this area is today? The tool I use is the OR map system. It's pretty simple and easy to use and helps us overlay what we know about township and range and section with a modern map. So what I'm going to need to do to start this process of translation is to really get a good idea of the shape of this property in my mind with relationship to the township. So again, remembering that grid that we've got, I've got this square that I'm looking at between section 34 and 35. And if I parcel out the area that the property is in, I'm really looking at the south half of section 34. Okay, so keeping that in mind, this shape, and that it's about the south half of section 34, I can go over to the OR map system, and I can use the map viewer option to access a modern map. Definitely hit OK for this disclaimer. I'm going to add my own little disclaimer that this is a little bit of a guess and check system that I use, but it's pretty effective in helping you kind of translate if you're not needing to know exact details. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to remember that the township this was in, because I wrote it down earlier, is 07 South, range 03 West. I'm going to hit go, and it's going to zoom me into that township. So remember, township is 36 square miles, or 6 mile by 6 mile square. And I'm really only interested in 1 square mile in the bottom of that section. That's section 34. So again, understanding, as I remembered from our lesson, that the numbering system goes like this, and that 36 is here, and I'm interested in section 37, I'm going to zoom into that section down below. And it's going to continue highlighting your entire township for you, which can be helpful, but it also can be a little distracting. So if you want that orange highlight to go away, all you have to do is hit the clear search button there. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, the property I'm looking at is in the city of Salem proper today, which makes it a little difficult to see the different sections. But we remember the code, that I'm looking for the code here of 073W. And then I'm looking for the section 34. So I can see here that this is 33, which is 1 square to the left of what I'm looking for. So where I'm interested in is probably going to be right here. So we'll keep zooming in until the computer loads the overlay for me. Give me a little better idea of what I'm looking at here. Ah, there we go. Because there's so many different homes and property boundaries in this area now, it's split up into a lot of different maps, which can be frustrating and confusing. But remember, keep an eye out for that prefix that you know, 3W 34. So by looking at this, we can start to see where that imaginary square is again. So this is 34. Okay, that's in our section. Oh, this is 33. Oh, this is 27. Okay, the top of left corner of my square, or northwest corner of my square, is going to be here. And then I can come down here and look. Oh, look, the bottom left corner, or southwest corner of my square, is going to be here between where I'm at 3W. No, I want to be 3W. 34, oh, 3, okay, here we go. So I can start to kind of map out in my mind's eye where this section, or 1 mile square, is. And once I get that boundary kind of established in my mind's eye, then I can start thinking about, okay, the property, Mr. Smith's property, was in the south half of that properties, or of that section. So I'm imagining to my midline here between that square, and I'm going to do a little bit of guess and checking then that the property is probably going to be about in this area. Now I can see some landmarks that I recognize, right? This is South Salem High School, and I can zoom in to confirm that a little bit. Or if I'm interested, I mean, this is showing a satellite map, but I can also use a base map. You go to the base map gallery here, click on it. You can also choose a street map. And that might be actually more helpful, helping me understand where the properties are that I'm looking for. Okay, so again, keeping that south half in mind, I'm going to go back to my map again and look at the shape. So about south half. Now notice that the property doesn't go exactly to the midline in section 34 on the west side of it here, but it does appear to go to the midline here over here. And I'm recognizing too that I know, oops, again, I always have trouble navigating this one. Use the blue arrows, not the clicking. I'm noticing that David Leslie right here is my neighbor up here, Mr. Hoyt is my neighbor here, and Mr. Davidson is my neighbor over here. That might be helpful because when we look at the map, the assessor's maps, they're going to actually show the corners of these property intersections. So in translating, I'm going to need to know that information. And I also noticed that there's a funky little square here. So I'm going to focus, because that's pretty unique and a unique shape, I'm going to focus on looking at that because I know it goes totally to the line here, and I can see that there's going to be a lot of different corners that I'm going to be able to see. All right, so that's going to be on the east and the southeast side of the section there. All right, I'm back here. Midline, my section is going to be about here. And I'm looking down here, here's 34, here's 34, here's 35, so this is going to be the far right corner of that. So now's where the guess and checking starts. I'm going to guess that I'm going to start out with this map here and see what happens. So if I click on here, it should give me an opportunity to see the map associated with that area. Click on the map number and it should open up a nice big clear map for me. And I'm interested in looking for that corners. Remember that funky little shape that we were looking for. So I'm going to start up here in the corner and I'm going to zoom in using my zooming in techniques here. And looky there. Right here I see a little corner marker that says Northeast Corner F.R. Smith Donation Land Claim number 47. We found that corner. And if I go over here too, I see, oh look, here's another corner with the southeast corner of David Leslie's donation land claim. Again, flipping back and forth between the maps, I can clearly see that I have found this corner and this corner here. Flip back here and you can see down here again, oh look, here's the re-entry corner for F.R. Smith's donation land claim and the other funny southeast corner for donation land claim for David Leslie. So I feel pretty confident that I can state that this little corner that I'm looking at here on the donation land claim of Fabertus Smith corresponds to this area in Salem today, or the intersection, starting at the intersection of Hoyt and 12th Streets. I think it's 12th Street, yep. Hoyt and 12th Street, all the way to the corner here, where Gilmore Field is, Gilmore Park or Field for South Salem High School today, and coming down, crossing that there. And then I can kind of go back and do some more guessing and checking to see how far to the west this property goes by looking at maps that are in order next to it. I can also go back and do a little bit of guessing and checking based on where I see the northwest corner being. It's almost to the very edge of this section and just south of the midline of the section. So I'm going to go to where I see 34 turning into 35 in my prefixes here. Takes a little while, or sorry, 34 turning into 33. And I want to go about halfway between where 8 and starts and 30 or 27 begins. So I'm going to guess it's probably around this area right here. So I'm going to click on this map since it's the closest one. Open that map up. And I'm going to start looking for corners again by zooming in. And if I pull in here really quick, this one's a little tricky here for me, but I see that a northwest corner of a donation land claim, DLC stands for donation land claim, number 47 is in this area here. So I found the northwest corner of Mr. Smith's property, because remember, if we go back to that other map, it says DLC, donation land claim number 47, corresponds to F.R. Smith. They've just left off his name on this one. So the northwest corner then of Mountain View Drive and McGilchrist Street is the other side of that property here. So that's a pretty good swath of property, and everything then in between it and south to the borderline was part of Fabertus Smith's donation land claim. Because I'm a pretty visual person, I sometimes like to go one step further with this and draw out the map. So what I'll often do is I'll often go to Google Maps and zoom in on the area that I know, because I've figured out that 12th Street's the far right corner and Mountain View is the far left corner. And I'll zoom in so that I can kind of see what I'm working with. Oops. And then oftentimes I'll print this out and then you physically draw out what I'm looking for. From this corner, I know that's Hoyt and 12th, coming over here to Mountain View with a little bit lower, and kind of draw out that same shape onto my map to give me a better understanding of where Mr. Smith's property was.